February 22nd, 2022, regular session of the Board of School Trustees of the School City of East Chicago. The time is now 6 p.m. The place is School City of East Chicago Administration Building, 1401 East 144th Street, in East Chicago, Indiana, 46312, and this is also being live streamed at www.secec.k12.in.us. This is a meeting of the school board in public for the purposes of conducting school corporation's business and is not to be considered a public meeting. The first item on the agenda is the roll call. Ms. Bigelow?
Trustee Rodriguez.
Present.
Trustee Gomez.
Present.
Trustee Williams.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Present.
Chairman Hernandez on.
Present. Can you please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next thing we have on our agenda would be the approval of the agenda.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Trustee Rodriguez makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Gomez seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Ms. Bigelow, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is presentation on Dr. Finley.
I'm going to ask that our team from McKinley, our leadership team from McKinley, Dr. Green and Mrs. P, they'll lead this part of the presentation. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Dr. Rashida Green. I am the proud principal of McKinley Elementary, and this is my awesome assistant principal, Miss Pachdale. All right, so our school improvement plan focuses on 3 areas: proficiency, growth, and social emotional learning. And so this is year 3 of our plan. For proficiency, our goal is really just to improve core instruction. And so our goal for our students are to increase proficiency by 10% in ELA and 9% in math. And the way that we plan to do this is to really look at our professional learning communities and how we refine and implement our curriculum maps. In addition to that, leverage the maps to plan and deliver high quality, standard-based instruction, and then utilize our curriculum PLCs to facilitate reflection and the continuous improvement. And of course, establish our formative assessment cycles. All right, and the second area of focus for our school improvement plan is growth. And in a nutshell, this is really how we provide interventions for our students. And so our goals for this particular area is to decrease the amount of students who are achieving low growth in ELA by 8%, 10%, decrease that number by 10% in math, and then increase the students who are in our do not pass roster to achieve high growth in ELA by 7% and by 4% in math. And again, the way that we accomplish this is to review and revise our intervention framework, to engage our teachers in professional development and support specific, to follow up supports with specific to authentic engagement and instructional effectiveness, and then conduct classroom observations to do fidelity checks. Next. And so our areas that we're concentrating on, our student population, is our African-American students and our special ed as our subgroups. And for our African-American students, we want to increase their proficiency by 10% in English, language arts, and math, and our special ed students increase their proficiency and growth by 11%. And the way that we do this is to revise our success framework, which is our intervention program, and to engage our teachers in professional development and progress monitor through our social emotional learning plan. Next, please. And so this is the highlight, and the high point for me is data. And so I get a little excited about what we see here. And so this is our overall academic data for reading. And so I just included 2 data points for you, beginning of the year and middle of the year. And some of the highlights is really looking at the numbers of students and not the percentages, because they can be misleading. And so when we look at how many students are we moving towards proficiency, if you look at our on grade level students, we started off with 7%, which was really 28 students out of 484. In January, when we took the second assessment of iReady, we went from 28 to 77% on grade level. So that was a great leap for McKinley. In addition to that, above grade level students, we moved from 10 to 30 students. Next, please. In math, you'll see a high point for us is looking at the amount of students we shifted from 2 grade levels below. We started off with 26%, 109 students. In our second assessment, we reduced that 26% to 14, which now we have 63 students that we're providing support and interventions for. Next, please. So I said that our groups of students that we're really honing in on for proficiency and growth, we're actually doing all of our students. But this particular group is our African-American students. And so this is one where we're seeing a little bit lag in moving those students along. And so just to share out some data points, at the beginning of the year, those students who were sitting collectively at 2 grade levels or 3 grade levels below, we have 29%, which was 39 students. We were able to reduce that number almost by half to 18 students. And this is for our reading data. Again, this is where our struggle lies. We're looking at that same percentage of students who are sitting 2 or grade levels below. How do we move those students? And so 29%, we were at 40 students. We've reduced that number to 18%, which is now 25 students who need that additional support. So our other subgroup is our special education students. And so we have some students who are at above grade level. We have students who are at the range of 2 or grade levels below. And so again, we have 50% of our special ed population at the beginning of the year, which is 25 students who are 3 or more grade levels behind. Again, we slowly shifted that. One of our students were able to move up. So we're now at 48%. Next, please. And so for math, similar slow progress with our subgroup for special education, but we are moving them. And so when we look at our students who are below, we're looking at 56% of those students in our special ed population for math were sitting at 3 or more grade levels below, which was 27 students. We were able to shift that number from 56 to 48, which is now 24 students. Our highlight is that we were actually able to move some students towards grade level proficiency. Next, please. And so the heart of what we do at McKinley is really intervention, because we know that lots of our students come to us 2 or 3 grade levels below. And so we instituted a new program called LLI. And really it just provides foundational skills to our students. Next slide, please. And so a proud moment for me is that at the beginning of the year, we had 160 students in our LLI program. We were able to reduce that number to 87 students. And so we're excited about that because we are working with limited staffing for interventions. And so for them to reduce those numbers and move those kids out of the red range is exciting. So our intervention is really headed by our interventionist, Ms. McGee. She works with our paras to support our students. And so really her job is really to address the specific needs of a particular child when regular classroom instruction is not sufficient. Next, please. And we'll see, we have a quick video clip to kind of show you what she does in the classroom. All right, so this is Mrs. McGee working with our intervention students. I think our sound. Jeremy, I think the sound needs to be. Okay, we'll move on. I think it was a great idea to share with you what exactly her role is at McKinley. She's an awesome addition to our team. And again, the way that our intervention program works, as Jeremy pulls up the presentation, is really that we have Title I parents, EL parents, and our special ed parents working together to support all of our students who have registered below grade level. And so they pull groups all day. And so they're working one-on-one with students. Sometimes they're working on 4-to-1, but our ratio of students are no more than 6-to-1 adult. And so this is just a snapshot of what our LLI program looks like in action, running records that are happening every 2 weeks with progress monitoring and always doing data checks for our students. Next, please. And so I'm going to turn over the social emotional portion of this presentation to my assistant principal.
Hello, everyone. As Dr. Green said, I'm going to talk about our area of focus of number 3, social emotional learning. And at McKinley, we are striving to incorporate an MTSS model. So we're able to assist and get all students in all areas, social emotionally, academically, behaviorally, on track and where we need them to be. How we're going to measure that? We're looking for a decrease in our suspensions, an increase in model attendees, and an improvement in the student staff climate and culture survey. Over here, we have an SEL program, which we are diving in as a district level with the implementation of Panorama, which we're very excited about to gain more information to assist our students along the way. Next. Here is a picture of Miss Cessna, that is one of our kindergarten teachers. You'll see she's holding a trophy. So for our attendance, in order to build incentives, we have a traveling trophy. So every month we do an attendance award for each grade level. So there's the highest in kindergarten all the way through 6th grade. And the students have that trophy. And the goal for them is to have it the entire month and try to get it another month. We have one teacher who's had it every single month but one, and she's bound and determined to have it for the rest of the school year. So she really pushes for it. And then they also have a certificate right outside their door that says the percentage of their attendance for that month. Additionally, with our attendance, we do perfect attendance awards, where we give out incentives like a dress down day to our students who have perfect attendance for that month. We also put together a montage for the parents to look at that scrolls all the students' names who have perfect attendance for the month as well. And we post that on Class Dojo. So the parents get very excited to see their children's names up on Class Dojo, and the kids are obviously excited as well. So anything we can do to get them in. All right, so our attendances that we have, this is broken down in our subgroups and the overall attendance for McKinley Elementary, and you can see it's broken down by grade level as well. We would obviously like to be in that 95%, but in comparison to last year, which we'll show you shortly, we're doing fairly well. We're pushing for getting parents to understand the need to get them there. Our biggest concern is the as we know, COVID and the sickness, illnesses, etc. So that's added to a little bit of the attendance deficit as we're seeing, but you know what, we're communicating with our parents a lot, so they know the importance of getting their kids here. So move on to the next one. Okay, so this is a comparison from the same group. So apple to apple comparison. That is why there's no information, because we didn't have kindergarten last year. So we only have this year. So that was first grade, and that's them now. So it's comparing the same group of students from year to year comparison. This is last year's attendance for that grade level, and then you'll see this year's attendance. So we're looking at, I mean, that's like a 10% increase from last year's attendance to this year, just by going from virtual instruction to in-person instruction. We've increased. I do want to note, McKinley had the highest last year. So this is the highest that we had in the corporation. McKinley had the highest attendance, and we were able to increase it by this much over here. So we're doing very well, continuing every day to make sure we get our kids here. Something I mentioned before was our suspensions, and we wanted to decrease. You'll see August 19th through the lovely day we all remember, March 13th. We'll never forget that day in our head, Friday the 13th, right? That was the day. We had 136 suspensions, 117 detentions, at an enrollment of 598. Ignore the fact that this year looks so small, but that is because we were not in person until March. And we had half our population, so keep that in mind. Even though the enrollment's there, it was half in person. So that is why the scores are where they are. And then right now, up until the 15th of February, here's our numbers over here. So we had a huge, I mean, we looked at 19 was our goal. I mean, from here to here, it's over 100 that we've decreased in that. So we're doing very well with our behavior at McKinley Elementary. Very proud of our students. Okay, so school culture and climate, some things that we have for teachers. We are very much about every month celebrating staff birthdays, cupcakes in the lounge, get-togethers if we can have them as a school. Right now we have posted on the outside of the mailroom where every teacher has a heart, and all the staff members are able to write on the hearts a sweet kindness message to them. So everybody, you can see it. They're all coming by to write and look and see who's wrote on their little heart. So we definitely build that culture at McKinley. Next slide. Additionally, with building that culture, we have 2 wonderful mentoring programs. Dr. Green leads the McKinley Jewels, which is the girls, and Mr. Sanders, who is our dean, leads the McKinley Gents, which is the boys. And it's all about maintaining connections and building relationships with each other, as well as connecting to the community. So you'll see here this little Jewels group in our library. You'll see our lovely Miss Austin looking up and ready to go. So definitely promoting it. Miss Randolph, you remember this one as well? Maybe that was strategically planned, right? And go ahead to the next slide. Next, there we go. Here's our Gents and Jewels. We had donations. The boys put together, we had a food drive type of thing with cans. The whole building helped donate, and the boys packed it up and got it ready to be delivered. So they definitely enjoyed that involvement. Here's our boys right there with all the canned goods in the background. So very proud of them. They were very proud of themselves as well. And here's them packing up again.
Just some few pictures.
Yeah.
And so the tenets for our mentoring groups is really service, commitment, and achievement. And so that's what we share with our students. We do something a little atypical. We try to touch bases with them every 2 weeks. If it's not, we know that it's a struggle for a lot of our families to come after school. So we do something in-house. And I think that has kind of helped with our social emotional learning, our plan, and the decrease of our suspensions. And so it's really, again, about building those relationships with our students. Any questions that you may have?
Wow. Is it the subgroups that you are focused on? Is it solely based on the pre-data? And I know you have ENL, then you have the African American, and then special ed, but then you have some students that are not considered ENL, correct?
Correct.
So where do those students fall in?
So our subgroups is really based off our previous ILOM data. So these are the students the groups are struggling in terms of meeting proficiency.
Okay.
Now with our overall, we have such a huge population of ENL students. And so we track their data as well. We look at their intervention supports similarly to our subgroup. But for this presentation, we pulled out those two areas or those groupings.
And still there's such a high Hispanic rate there, that's what I was like, but I don't want us to not miss those subgroups also.
Yes, and really what we do for our subgroups, we do for our entire population.
You say that.
Great question. Any other questions?
Excuse me, I do have a question regarding the suspensions or the discipline. What do you find the majority of those to be, and what corrective actions do you put in place for those?
So the majority of them are disrespect in the classroom or fighting. And so really we follow a progressive discipline. We do a lot of after-school detentions. We do a lot of lunch detention. So we try to not first go to out-of-school suspensions. We want our students in the building. And so we do everything we can to keep them in the building. And so again, it's really just building that relationship, connecting with the parents, letting them know that we are working with students. We understand students will have behaviors, but our job is to teach them and show them how to work or operate correctly in a school.
And so does that Jules and Jen's program look into that?
Yes, that's our mentoring program. So it kind of offsets the discipline, because those students, we've handpicked some of those students to be a part of the program. So if I know that I have a student who is struggling in 6th grade, a part of our intervention conversation is let's attach them first to an adult. Which adult in the building has a connection with the student? And then secondly, let's put them in Jules or let's put them in Jen's program. Let's work with them.
I just want to commend you guys. I was there at the when we had the Christmas or Thanksgiving Christmas food giveaway, and the young ladies and the gentlemen were there, and they were like, don't touch it, I'm gonna do it, no, thank you very much. So they were extremely adamant about doing the work, and kudos to you guys for coming up with this program, as well as giving the showing your positive I guess programs for students, and not only for students but for the teachers. I'm sure teachers need that also, so thank you.
Thank you. And we do so much. This is just really a snapshot. We have a 100 book challenge going on currently, where students are racing to read 100 books, and that's a huge thing. We were able to give $100 to each teacher for our Scholastic Book Fair to increase their libraries. We not only gave it to teachers, but we gave it to students. So if you were reading books, we wanted you to have access to the books. And so a part of that, we know that a large percentage of our population cannot afford to buy books at the Scholastic Book Fair. And so we donated some money back to our students.
Your mentoring program, you took my name, Jewel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Just don't send it downstairs.
Okay.
It's already been.
You have the copyright.
Yeah. But okay, with the mentoring program, do you accept outside volunteers?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone that wants to work with grades 4 through 6 students, preteens, we'll take you. And so our program has been such a huge success. We see it trickling down to our younger kids who want to be a part of it. So you'll see pictures. If you look at our website, you'll see pictures of our kindergartners. We just did a really wonderful activity for Valentine's Day. It was really loving yourself. How do we affirm ourselves? And as young women, how do we say, I love myself because? And so even though I wasn't a part of that particular meeting, and I'm looking at the pictures, I see more of my little bitty faces and versus my big faces, so my older kids. And so it is really becoming a school-wide thing, culture, in terms of how do we support students and mentor each other.
So if I wanted to volunteer, I do have programs for younger ladies and young men, how to be a young lady or how to be a gentleman, and I would love to, if we could go over my program or critique it. I would love for you to use that.
Oh, absolutely. We'll take anything we can because
Absolutely.
I've created the curriculum and I'm not the best. So I thought what was near and dear to my heart. We've also partnered with Top 20. So we add another layer of extracurricular, the dance portion. We're utilizing some pieces of their mentoring program. So I'm willing to connect with anyone who's able to uplift this particular program.
But I would love to work with you.
Yes, yes.
Even
Come
though
on
you took my
over.
name.
So it was Kismet, right? So come on over to McKinley.
That was a great presentation. I do have a question with regards to students from Michigan began school to the middle school. I know there's a significant drop from 500 plus to under. What would you consider, or what would you think has these kids moved high mobility rate, or what factors?
With the decrease of the enrollment?
Population.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it is high mobility rate, but in addition with COVID, we see a lot of displaced families. So we're still experiencing that, rent increases. So people are moving. And so what at this particular moment, we've seen an increase in our enrollment within the last 3 weeks or so. A lot of them are immigrant families coming into the area, many coming from Chicago, but we see the transient population moving quite frequently. So right now, I think we're probably, I told them my goal was to have over 500 kids at McKinley. My register said, stop opening the doors for everyone. But that is my goal, to reach more children and to better educate more children. So again, it's just at this time, we're seeing a lot of difficulties with financial hardship with families.
Last question, do you feel that for every student that did participate initially, do you feel that you have all the programs in place for them, especially those that are in special ed? Whatever type of alternative programs that you need, you feel that you have all the resources that you would need in order to
Yes, we have lots of resources within the district. However, starting off this year as a new principal to McKinley, what my challenge was staffing, trying to, with the 160 something students in intervention at the beginning, on the onset, I may have had maybe 6 paras. I had no E&L paras, maybe 1. She was part-time title, part-time E&L. So struggling, trying to schedule and support at that time, it was very challenging. It's kind of with the help of Ms. Pisco, we were able to secure additional E&L paras, and our staffing has kind of settled. But again, our paras also are subs. And so anytime there's an absence and we're unable to fill it with a teacher, a substitute teacher, we're pulling from the paras. And so that kind of hinders our progress here. So that's one of the challenges, but resources, we have gobs of things that we can use, and I'm sure that's not an educational term, I should say. But we have a lot of materials that we can use to support students.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Now we're going to have our awesome L&R presentation this evening. They're going to talk about the Lilly grant specifically.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That was a great introduction to the kinds of things that are supposed to be done. We started this journey really almost 6 years ago. And at that time, Dr. Finley was the principal at the high school. And so we had that opportunity to pull it together with a year of planning, 4 years of implementation, and an additional year given because of COVID. And one thing that you had a lot of pages, so don't think we're gonna go through all of them. I know what you were thinking when you got your packet, but we felt it was important to kind of do a little review. So if there's someone on the board that was not here before, we gave you a little overview, but it's just so ironic. We began with challenges. At the writing of this, we got to the heart of the readers when we talked about our children, and you come into East Chicago and talk about the city of hope, but there was a lot of hopelessness when we had that lead contamination. There was a lot of hopelessness when we had children worried about will their parents be picked up and taken away. So there were real issues such as lead contamination and deportation at that time. Next. And so now we're still have things to worry about. We're dealing with COVID and other issues. And so it seems that our children are always in some level of survival mode, fear over something. And so we've just gone from one, well, it's not really one extreme to the other, because COVID, you can't even compare to anything. But that sense of fear and hopelessness still remains with us 6 years later. Next, please. And so at that time, the counselors, social workers, and everyone came together, and we started having discussions about the social emotional well-being for our students, because you can't worry about your future tomorrow if you have concerns today, but they have to be focused. And that's one thing that the ASCA model will talk about.
Lily did an unbelievable activity when they went across the state and they said, look, we have to increase the graduation rate. And we've got to understand how you go about doing this. And what they asked was, how do you graduate students who have so many concerns and so many issues? How do you improve your graduation rates? Because graduation rates are directly tied to the economic well-being of the state of Indiana and your community. Our philosophy is education is economic development. So you've got to look at the two together. The other thing is, how do you prepare students to be work ready so that they can help improve the economic climate of the state of Indiana? Now that's what Lily was really looking at, okay? How are we gonna fill these jobs in the state of Indiana that are now vacant if we can't get highly trained students, individuals with the right skills at the right time? And the last couple of things they looked at, how do you prepare students to have a career focus at graduation, not waiting until 6 or 10 years later and say, oh, I think I want to be an electrician. But that idea is planted at the time of graduation and they're going on to that field of study. And the last one is, how successful are your graduates when they leave your school district? Do they have a plan of study? Are they going to college? Are they going to the service? Are they going to a trade? They're opening up a business. How many students that you see on a daily basis driving through McDonald's and you say, oh, what are you doing now? And they really haven't thought about where they need to be.
Next, please. And so basically, at the beginning, when we were writing this, we felt that the counselors were pretty much in a silo mentality. What do we mean by that? This one doing this one doing that. And so it was really agreeable that we had to take a look at a comprehensive model. And it was at the very bottom, but I didn't even remember if there was that many of them, but within a 5-year span at the time that we were writing, I believe there were 4 superintendents and 4 principals, or give or take, at the time of the writing. Within a 5-year span, that was the type of changes that were happening in East Chicago.
What we're looking at is, Lily says, there's 2 things we want you to look at: graduation rates and how do you use counselors, improve their standing in the community, because the role of counselors in the public school system hadn't changed since the 1940s. And they said you could pick any type of model you wanted. So with the principal at the Central High School, we sat down and we decided to pick ASCA, American School Counseling, this American School Counseling Model. And we moved forward with that. What it did was, it included a foundation, management, and a delivery system, and a means of accountability. How many of you actually know what the role of a counselor is? Who holds them accountable for the graduation of students? And that's what ASCA will do.
Next, please. Keep going, Jeremy. She covered that. Next, please. The grant award at the time was $442,100. The expectation was that we would hire a freshman counselor, and we did. That went to the high school, and a 0.5 elementary counselor. We partnered with communities and schools, and there's a young lady who gives 1 day to each of the elementary schools. And professional development to help the counselors understand what was happening with the ASCA membership, stipends, et cetera, was the intent initially. Next, please. And so the ASCA model required the counselors and staff to work closely together, covering areas such as collaboration and leadership. I was really amazed that you could write a school improvement plan and the counselor's not at the table. Counselor's giving you, here's the attendance, here's the dropout, here's this, but they were not at the table. And that's where they need to be, because they are in a very important piece of the school system. And so, of course, cultural competency training and sensitivity to diversity, we began discussions with that last year. And hopefully we'll be able to, you guys will be able to do more with that. Knowledge and skills to better identify how to use the data to bring about change. You'll find a lot of people say, we look at the data, we look at the data. After you look at it, then what? What's the action? What does it lead you to do that will make a difference? Next, please. Basically, she's already covered about hopefully improving the grades and increasing awareness of opportunities for college and career paths. And we have to salute Mr. Brown and his team in terms of what they do with CTE, et cetera. And I remember there were just a lot of discussions about that at the very beginning with under Dr. Finley's leadership. Next, please.
What's the role of a counselor? And how do we make them part of our educational team? So what we did was we looked at the ASCA model and said, how do we integrate them into all this system? Remember that the components of the national model had to be foundation, management, delivery, and accountability. So when you look at the counselors, you had to come in with a whole new system. How do you build? How do you make them part of the team that's going to move forward the kids to graduation from K through 12? That's what we looked at. It has to start in kindergarten, so you begin to introduce the students to career opportunities, social emotional behavior, different curriculums that you have.
Next, please.
And what our role was, and I tell everybody, sometimes I would go to Linda at the beginning and I say, Linda, I don't think I want to do this. Because it was like, man, you're on the Titanic in the middle of the ocean and you're trying to turn that ship all the way around in another direction. Just imagine that. And that's what our job was. We had to get counselors to think in a different way. Instead of being in a cubicle, I am now part of this team and I must contribute. I am responsible for the graduation of these students. I am responsible. How can you lead a student to be in a trade when you've never been to a manufacturing plant? You don't know what it is. The only thing you've really done is gone through college. So it was a whole new system for them. So like Linda said, you're gonna have the naysayers, Rashada, you still have to keep after it. And I really have to commend the middle and the high schools. They've done an excellent job so far. And when you listen to the evaluation report, you'll see that. We had to also look at how do they review data? Do you really look at who's staying? Part of the grant said, and this was one of the things that your acting superintendent, how many Fs are generated? How many kids receive 2 and more Fs every year? If you receive 2 Fs your freshman year, 2 Fs your sophomore year, 2 Fs your junior year, where are you in senior year? Drop out. So it's looking at that data and saying, did I really get what was going on in 8th grade? How many of those kids, before they come to the 9th grade, are failing? And what type of supports do we need to put in place? What is the role of the teachers? Have you looked at the grades, the 2 or more Fs? What areas are they in? Are they in math? Are they in English? Are they in history? And what teachers are given the most Fs? And how's that happening? That's the role of this student support team. Who's having problems? And one thing I have to say, the goal was to have 1 meeting a month. Our schools have 2 meetings a month. One is for talking about issues with the children, and one is sitting there looking at that data and saying, how many kids have 2 or more Fs? What is our plan? How are we going to move them to the next level? And
Next, please. Now, this is my favorite. When I worked with the Department of Ed, that was back in 2013 when I resigned. This tree was out there, and you can't see so well, so I do have copies for you guys. But one thing that about the tree, give them those, it's talking about we all share the same environment. Schools, districts such as ours, we're getting that government money. But everybody has to be concerned about PBIS. What are we doing to help the children from a positive perspective? Everybody, not just a student that's in trouble. So what kind of positive behavior interventions are we doing? And the RTI, that was the old way of talking about intervention, but it's still talking about, here's a kid who has a need, what are we gonna do? I don't care if you call it chicken salad. Here's a kid that has a need, what are we gonna do? And then SEL, they began to take a close look at social emotional learning. They were looking at it in 2013. Well, it's off the charts now with COVID, but it's nothing new under the sun. What is new, and this is the part that I like now, we talk about most kids are at tier 1. This is the classroom teacher. Then we talk about the kids that need some targeted remedial intervention and support, and that kid that needs the intensive. Well, guess what? They figured out we gotta work on intervention and enrichment for those kids who are doing okay. So they can be at a level 2 and 3 at the other end of the scale. And that's a new piece now. And we hope to get into that even more. But as Dr. Green said earlier, and I was in these elementary buildings, they were catching it, trying to just cover rooms. But she did all that training for that LLI, and then she had to find her people. When she found her people had to go and help other people. And so it just became a revolving door. But once things settled in terms of staffing, then we began to see some improvements. I'm excited about what the future will bring. Next, please, Jeremy. So these are just highlights about the whole MTSS process, the multi-tiered student support, leadership, capacity building within. That's what they're doing at those SST meetings. They're all talking. Deans, assistant principals, social workers, all of them.
Nurse.
They're sitting down talking. And it's specific in terms of, this is what the data shows us in general. Wow, we got to move this attendance, we got to do this, we got to do that. Then that second meeting, wow, Johnny has been struggling here. What have we done? What can we do next? Those are the genuine conversations that digging into the data. And when I look at data, data tells me, wow, all these kids fail in algebra. Better get in those algebra classes and find out what's going on. So the tiers of instruction and intervention is nothing new. Like I said, they used to call it RTI, and now it's being called MTSS. I want to thank Tammy Cole. She held the fort for us for 2 or 3 of the years in the middle. And then this year, we're working closely with Ms. Beckham. But there's nothing new under the sun. What has to happen is that how intense are we about identifying what the problems are? Next, please.
Okay. The grant requires that you go out into the community and have partners. How can you prepare students for a job or a career and you don't involve the Chamber of Commerce and say, what jobs are out there that our students can apply for? And as we do that in the trade industry, they're looking for all types of kids. Have we prepared the counselors to encourage our kids that maybe you could go into carpentry, electrician, millwright? I mean, just those are good paying jobs. So that's why we bring the partners. Communities and Schools has been a great partner. They help supply funding for the counselor at elementary school, because those discussions about careers Must start at the elementary school. The Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce, they were one of the organizations that provided a support letter, and we keep in constant contact with them. Restorative justice, it went out for a little while, it's coming back, and we're glad of that. Jobs for America, introducing students to what is really out there, and that's what Lily said you also had to do. Sometimes the kids don't even know the types of careers that are available, what they could be involved in. Center Life Awareness Support, which is class, that's from Genesis, which provides supports for the students and families. Our Student Health Center. Why would we involve our Student Health Center? What's the first place a kid goes if they're really having a problem or they're trying to get out of class? Something's happening at home. To the nurse. So if you have the nurse at that table, she can talk about the types of kids that's coming in her office, what's going on. And they'll talk to a nurse sometimes before they'll talk to a teacher or a counselor. And the Indiana Youth Institute. They're a great organization in the state of Indiana, and they provide a lot of data on different types of social issues that our children are having.
And before you leave the screen, I know you're talking about restorative justice now, but it used to be here.
That's right.
Indiana Youth Institute, they came in with their social workers and all to help us. So over a 6-year time, we've had a lot. Next, please. Now, we're just gonna highlight this next part. Jeremy did a beautiful job of making our stuff look real pretty.
We're not computer people.
And I thank him for it. But Rashada will go with the 2 goals.
When we set with Dr. Finley, the 2 goals we had of the Lilly Grant. Lily said graduation. So how do we improve our graduation rate? And number 2, how are you gonna get there? By changing the role of the counselor. The counselor's role changed by 80% of their time being donated to students. That means you go into class and you give lessons. Do you ever remember seeing your counselor in your class talking about these are careers? This is what it is. These are questions. Social emotional learning lessons. That's what they do now.
Next, please.
Next. So the resources that we had was counseling staff, all this list of people. Majority of these people sit at that table twice a month and discuss children. And I tell you something, I tell Linda all the time, I'm so proud of the 2 schools that I monitor, the middle school and the high school. And if you're not present, you better have a slide with your information on. So I'm telling you, they are so organized. And I say, Linda, this year, I did not even have to tell them, have you started your meeting? So it's built into their system, and they really are to be commended for that.
And we know you've changed from RDS to Skyward.
Yeah.
And at the time, though, everybody cried about RDS. Well, now they cry about Skyward. So, go figure.
The other thing is we have to have an outside evaluator. So every year we have an evaluation, and Linda's going to review that. And we have to have new policies and procedures, and we did that. The strategy.
We talked about most of those.
Yeah, we talked about most of these. This is how we were going to implement the changes that we had.
Next, please. Okay, so a lot of it has already been discussed. You know, the program is for middle and specifically for middle and high school. We wanted to start conversation at the elementary level, which is why we have the counselor for at least 1 day a week. Technical support, social emotional learning, the curriculum. Initially, the social workers and counselors came together. They looked at what the IDOE had online and pulled together a beautiful calendar of what they could do throughout the year. And now under the leadership of the new SEL director, they're taking that to a whole different level. The outcomes kind of stretched. And initially this was almost like a timeline going across, but he made it look so pretty for us. But anyway, we have done what we said we would do in terms of pushing the hiring of 1.5 counselor. And when it's talking about the 0 to 6 months in the scale of things where we wanted to be at the very beginning. But now that we're at the end, we'll go forward to that part of it. And I'm sorry, when you talk past 15 minutes, you're talking too long. Next, please, Jeremy. And here again, the same thing, where you should be, where you should have been after 1 to 2 years. And so even with this, as you go through it, you know that last year and the year before, it is what it is during that timeline. But this shows you the expectation of where we have wanted to be. And we do have the advisory meetings twice a year. You guys are invited. I think maybe one of you showed up one time, but this is not a first time conversation. We must have two meetings, and there's a fall and a spring. The fall kind of, captures where you were at the end of the year. By the end, the scores are in, attendance rates are in, graduation rates. And then in the spring, we'll talk about the kinds of things that were done. And we have a good time. I mean, the people from the chamber and other organizations, when they come together, they have been excited about the kinds of things that this Lilly money was able to do for us. Next, please.
And you also have some indirect outcomes. One of the main ones is counselors are now working on their RAMP certification. So they will be nationally recognized as an accredited RAMP school. And that's what they're working on right now. And it's taken, well, we had a year and 90 days that we really couldn't do much, but they're working on that now, which is really good. Under RAMP, you have to have no less than a ratio of 300 to 1. If you can imagine you're a counselor and you're responsible for 400 kids, really? So that's why this has been decreased. That's what ASCA says. It really should be 250 to 1. Just think about that. The other thing is making sure that we have action plans for attendance, behavior, and academics. Attendance. You have attendance officers. I mean, that is wonderful. Great, 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 great. And then decreasing increasing the graduation rate by 5%. These were, and making sure that you have your student support team. So part of Lilly was building a team. So every 2 weeks, you're sitting down talking about who's failing, what are you doing, what types of behaviors are happening, what type of academics are happening, what's happening with 8th graders transitioning into 9th grade. So those are the type of things that they're doing. And like I say, I monitor the middle school and the high school, and I am so proud of how far those committees have come.
Next, please.
Next. And as you could see, this is the year we submitted the grant. You were going up, 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 and then we had a little COVID. And you'll be back up there again, but it really has. And believe it or not, it's unbelievable that we put this together with Dr. Finley. So all of these were her, because she was at the high school when we put it together.
Next, please. And so there was a mandate that you have an outside evaluator, and the Praxis group did that for us. And under goal number 1, he felt that communication had improved dramatically. He talked about the ASCA being implemented at Block and at Central. He saw the student support teams in place. And in addressing the second goal of increased graduation rate, the freshman council was responsible for the students beginning their portfolios. And they were doing it by hand, and we hope that they have figured out how they'll have them do it online. And MTSS, by the last report, it was in every building and just getting better and better. And again, I thank particularly Ms. Poe for her leadership the last couple of years. Social motion guidance curriculum, that is now going to be the responsibility of our SEL director, but it's moving right along.
Can I point out one thing? This was one of the suggestions of Dr. Finley, that in the 9th grade, you would have a portfolio. You would have to begin to have a resume completed, look at several job perspectives or careers that you wanted, and then begin to research those and see what it actually takes to complete. Now think about if you were in the 9th grade and somebody had to do that. And every year it's being updated, so you're looking at it. So I graduate.
Next, please. Sustainability. Hopefully you guys will be able to continue with the 9th grade counselor where you are, because this year is your year that you're doing that. Professional development will continue. And when you look at professional development, I think about 9 or 10 counselors have been trained over the last few years. So you keep taking a step up, too bad, step
We have
up,
3 now out
Yeah.
of that trend.
and continue with the social emotional curriculum. You have a director now, so we don't think that will be a problem. And continuous administrative monitoring of process. Anybody knows me, they know Randolph will say, expect what you expect to happen. Because telling me that 52 kids got 12 Fs, and you don't go in and find out what's going on in those rooms, we just know that 52 kids got 12 Fs. And we know that over time, if they've gotten 12 Fs, it's not gonna make it. Next, please. Moving forward, stability of staff, of course. Councils I was talking about, and continuing with the monitoring of the state requirement. And as I said before, MTSS is nothing new. Everybody's supposed to be doing it in the state of Indiana. We just happen to get a little money to help us do it. But it is a state mandate, a moneyless mandate, by the way. And the social emotional learning piece, you have that in place. Involvement of community in the advisory board, that's a continuation of what we were doing already. And continue the communication process that we've already encouraged them to do. And continue conversation with the Foundation of East Chicago. I don't know if you remember the original grant, they were going to pick up the counselor. But then you came into all of the ESSA money and everything. So you need to have a conversation with them about sustainability later on, when you're going to need those dollars, because they did commit to that. But they committed to it based on the fact, what does the data show? Has it made a difference? I think that's it.
That's the last one.
All right, any questions? Good.
Well, I personally want to say thank you. Just to see this come to almost fruition. This is the last year for this grant, as Eleanor just indicated. So we'll be wrapping this up June 30th of 2022. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Now we'll move to our business portion of our meeting. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes for 1/4/2022. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion for approval.
Trustee Smith makes a motion for approval. Trustee Williams seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Ms. Baker, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 2, approval of claim docket. What is the pleasure of the board?
President, make a motion to approve claim documents.
Trustee Rodriguez makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Gomez seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Gomez.
page 11. $109,960. Is that tied into a particular vehicle?
Are you referring to the toll payment?
Yes.
Yes, it was tied to our school buses.
Thank you.
And trustees, I did have a conversation with the CFO earlier today, and I did ask for her to give me some information in regards to some of the items. One being that one in particular, 109, check 109,669, check 109,980, 109,970, 109,960. That was that one, actually, right? 109,942 and 109,940. She did look into some of the items that were what it was, and she said that she would give us more information. So I'm asking if we could just pull those off until we have proper, I guess, information given to us. She kind of told me what it was, but was not, and so much specific. And she also made the mention of that as she was looking in those claim dockets, there was not enough detail. So she said she has to make sure to talk to her people to make sure there's detail with these items. So I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if we have to pull them and then she gives the information.
As
Or-
of now, you do, because there's a motion on the floor. If there was an overview of this before there was a motion made, and CFO wanted to pull that from her own report or from her own thing docket, she probably could. I'm just telling you that for future reference, but now because there's a motion, yes, whoever made the motion needs to.
And we agreed for me to have them full. So the only item that will not be pulled is the one regarding the tollway, which is 109,960. So, I would like to have the motion, I guess, first off, trustee Rodriguez, if you could present your motion, and in turn, make the motion for approval of the claim docket with the removal of the item, check number 109940, 109942, 109970, 109969, and 109980.
Just gonna go ahead and recall my motion. And go ahead and make a motion.
You can just state as amended, to make it easier. I think she's already said what you're typing.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay. Trustee Lewis,
Second.
thank you. Are there any questions?
Those motions, yes, I'm sorry, Madam President.
Yes.
Those motions or those check numbers, we will be receiving additional information.
Correct.
Is that the reason?
Yes, so when we actually sat down to look at the check specifically, it said, like,
No,
Well-
what I think my question is, check numbers that you just read out, additionally, I know they're all over this claim document. Will we have specific of those check numbers with the details?
Are you asking, will I give you all the information to back those checks up?
Not necessarily. Those claim docket numbers or check numbers that trustee Hernandez just read off, I only see 3 of them as I look at the claim docket prior to us receiving this. What I'm asking is, those claim dockets, even when you read them off to me, I don't even have enough time to write them all down. So in addition to us amending these, will we be receiving those check numbers with additional details? So at a
Oh.
further date, we'll be able to approve those.
So that's the one thing, these checks have been printed, so to go through and put them on another docket, they would have to be totally voted for.
So that, I think that's my concern then. So how do we amend this now just to get additional information and those checks still be payable?
so if we don't get the information, or if you don't find what these items are actually, then the check will be canceled and we'll have to then put it back on the docket.
But would that hurt us in the long run, CFO, in regards to?
If I have
late
to go
fees
through and cancel them,
Because that's costing additional as well, right?
it's gonna be actually carried over into the next month if I don't cancel them before the 28th of February. So, with talking to trustee Hernandez, like I told her, I can pull them and I can scan all of the backup to the whole board and you can review the whole backup. But will you see them on the next docket in paper form on the docket? You will not. Now, we can do a special memo to saying that these checks have been added to the docket, but they're already printed. We can do it that way. To add it to, so it can be approved at the next meeting.
Madam President,
Trustee,
Ms. Simmons, are the work been done? Let's say, for example.
Yes.
So all the work's been done.
Yes, all of it has been done.
So have they provided the invoice and they're going to checks to be approved?
Yes.
but the problem with that, like, for instance, like when you see an item that says repaired, and I said, oh, well, CFO, what it was repaired, and you look into the document to see if she specifically showed there was no details to what was repaired. So for us to say we're gonna approve an item without having any detail as to what was actually done, purchased, repaired, whatever, I mean, I think she needs to know, we need to know.
So at the end of the day, if you decide not to approve these checks will be canceled and we will not be paying the vendor until further notice.
Are there any other questions?
Madam President,
Mr. Rodriguez?
so the work's been done. And I'm like, here's a good example, one of them. Basically says replace new filter on the bus. So if the work's been done, why don't we just go ahead and approve this? And then if you want additional information, we could go ahead and have Leah provide, or have the seniors provide that to us. But having to hold these tracks just so we, you know, since the work's been done, in other words, I hate to slow down progress when something's already been done. Obviously, if it was a quote, that's a different story, but in this case, this is work that has already been completed.
I completely understand what you're saying, and this is my, us being the people who are fiscally actually over the money. If someone's saying I repaired this cup that was broken, but it never had anything wrong with it, but I still repaired it because it was off and it was not on. I mean, what are we repairing? There was no, at the end of the day, there was no detail to what was actually repaired. There might have been something inside the cup that the rubber was off and you just need to know. And again, that's why I made sure to ask her ahead of time. And I asked her, you know, do you agree with what I'm saying? She's the one who pointed out that she needed more detail when invoices were coming to her also.
So can I clarify the motion then? So I guess then the motion would be to remove these particular checks from the doc, from the claim doc. Let's get a vote on that first, and then approve the claim doc. Is that correct? You saying that, or? I hate to make an amended motion, knowing that we haven't approved, or we're removing items from a docket that we currently have in front of us. So can my motion be, let me make a motion to remove these particular checks off the docket and get an approval on that, and then approve the motion as amended?
You can, that's two steps as opposed to doing it in one step.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
it's your motion, you can do it how you want to do it, but that, from what I'm hearing, that's the only difference is you're doing it two steps.
well, yeah, because
But
at
the
this
result will be the
point,
same.
yeah, because this point, I don't agree with removing, that's why. So, and the reason why is because I'm looking at descriptions, but some of these do have descriptions that does say, brief description, like say, for example, 10994, replaced new filter. Yeah. I mean, it's given us some brief description of what they did, especially from a mechanic standpoint.
Well, to answer your question, you can make your motion how you want to make it. So if you want to withdraw that motion and make a new one, you're free to do that.
Okay, so at this time, Madam President,
Yes, trustee.
so I'm going to remove my motion, and the motion with regards to the checks that you mentioned, check number 1099404270696 and 80. I'll make a motion to have that removed off the original claim document. That's my motion. I think I might be too, but I'll second it. Then we can open up questions.
Okay, so we have a person on the floor. Are there any questions?
Madam President, I just have more clarity on the current motion.
Okay,
I'm not clear where we're at on this motion now. It sounds to me like we're asking to get 5 items pulled.
that's what I asked, that's what you asked me now.
That's what it is. Yes.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I thought we went through this already. Okay,
Right.
okay, I'm fine.
Okay, so the motion on the table is for approval of the claim docket removed with, well,
No, his motion is just to remove those.
those items, okay. So we have a motion to remove the specific items that I asked to have removed. We asked all the questions. Correct, are there any other questions?
Yeah, but just for the,
No, go ahead, ask your question.
I really want to know the check numbers that are being pulled before I make a vote. Is it possible that we can read those out once again? That way
Sure, I could actually tell you guys where they're at and tell you my explanation. So the first one is page 8, 109940. That's the check. And there is a description of to replace a new filter. I don't know what filter where. I don't know if that's the difference between the
I'm sorry.
filters from the water.
We just received it.
Well, I'm saying I could, because she hasn't seen it.
That's
I'm
what I'm
sorry,
saying.
you can-
But as long as we had a copy of that is what my
Oh.
concern was, is that we wasn't following every check that you knew about. We wasn't following. So
I see.
I think we're clear now, that way we can move forward with the voting.
You okay? And
I think she's just right.
I could email it to you.
Tell me what I want. I just took a picture. We can move forward with the motion that's on the table.
Madam President,
Trustee, Rodriguez.
and again, at this point, I want to clarify the fact that, checks has to be paid with regards to, I understand some of our concerns, but if we have to change policy in order to review checks prior to vote is one thing, but if checks are already, if work's already been done on projects that we've already approved, then we shouldn't be holding back those type of checks to individuals or companies because we have a question or concern with regards to the description. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say let's approve something without us knowing. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm basically trying to say is if the work's been done and we have those kind of conversations with Leela or with Ms. Simmons, then we should have those kind of conversations. So in the future, if we have to change policy, let's go ahead and do that rather than pull checks because we may have a question or concern because of something that we don't know. Like for example, I know what a filter is, but you're right. Do we want? Should we know whether if it's a car filter, whether it's a building filter? To me, that's not the point. The point is, was the work done, and was it done to the best of their ability to get it done? And that's the reason why I feel that these checks should be paid.
And I totally understand. I'm with you. I just don't want to go back to a situation where we're paying checks for, like we used to, clean buildings every 2 weeks and opening the floors and stuff like that every 2 weeks. And we never really saw what was actually done. We never know. We don't walk through the buildings. So it was just a simple ask to remove. We're gonna get the detail, because the CFO didn't have the detail either. So she probably can't tell you exactly what specific area or whatever was done. That's solely the only reason. Again, we're the body who has to talk to where the money goes, and that's all. Are there any more questions?
Madam President, I just want to make a comment. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. I understand both sides of this. I just want to come back. It seems to me like this is, I know more than one time I've asked for more description, more detail for us to make, to have the ability to make a conscious, clear-minded effort on improving whether it be a budget or what have you. So in this case, I think hopefully this is the last time we have a discussion like this so that if there are questions, that they're spelled out in the description column here, or if there's a question that they're answered by the CFO. So that's my final comment.
Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Trustee-
So this claim document was completed as supposed to. And when I received the email, I was working on something else and I was unavailable to answer Ms. Hernandez's email. So when she came into my office right before the meeting, I was unavailable to answer her questions in the full details that she was asking. So that is the reason why she is asking for it to be pulled, because I didn't answer her questions in the full details that she was asking. And the full details of being on the claim docket, it has been on the claim docket. I couldn't see them, and that's the reason why Mrs. Hernandez has asked, Trustee Hernandez is asking for them to be removed. I understand the point Trustee Rodriguez is making, because yes, this will slow up the payment for us to give to the vendor. But also, this is not the first time we have pulled checks from the claim docket, and they have went unpaid. So, and prior, we wouldn't pull the check, we would ask that the information be sent to the board before the check is sent out, and the board would have to approve it in the email. That was prior. Now, today we are pulling the checks. I will put the checks aside. I will send out the email to the board, and I will present a memo for the next meeting for it to be approved. It's not saying that this work has not been completed, because it has. It's not saying that there's not enough information here, because there is. It's not enough information for me to tell Trustee Hernandez, yes, let's move forward. I want to look at the information as well as her. So it's not that she's just pulling it, just to be pulling it off. I want to give you the correct and accurate information that y'all need on everything that y'all approve. It's not just a random approval.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Ms. Bingham, roll call, please. I'm sorry, wait, well, Trustee Williams.
I don't even know what we're voting on at this point.
Okay, so right now we are voting on the removal of those items that I asked them to remove from the claim docket. That's what we're voting on. Any questions?
No,
I want to make sure you know what you're voting on.
we're voting on these things to be removed,
Correct, from the claim docket, okay, yes.
but that wasn't the motion that Trustee Rodriguez.
It was.
Yes, it is now.
Yes.
All right.
The reason why I made the motion,
Now we need a vote, as long as we're done asking our questions. Okay, so Ms. Bingham, can you please have roll call?
Trustee Rodriguez,
no.
trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith. Yes. Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. So now we're going back to the claim docket again, right? So I need a motion for approval of the claim docket with the removal of, just the claim docket.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion, so, I'd like to make a motion to, approve the claim docket as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Trustee Gomez makes the motion and trustee Williams seconds the motion. Any questions? Ms. Bingham, roll call.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith. Yes. Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 3, approval of personnel report. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, make a motion to approve personnel report.
Trustee Rodriguez makes the motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Smith seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Gomez.
I know these pages are titled page 1, but on the second page 1, there is 5 positions that have been removed or prorated pay. Just want to get more information on why those positions were removed. One of them has a effective date of 23rd, the other one's at 22 is the effective date. And then the prorated pay, how does that factor into the payment to this individual?
For the prorated pays, because we didn't have enough young ladies to participate, so we just figured out the time that was spent for those. The ones that were removed, one individual on the report, it was because we found a replacement which you approved at the previous meeting. So that individual asked not to be a part of this particular program. The date may be incorrect, but it should all be the 22nd. I know it says the 23rd for one of the items, but they should both be the 22nd, which is effective today of the school board meeting. And the other one was removed, not interested in coaching those particular group levels.
So this means that it will be prorated.
They'll be prorated. There was some time spent already working with the group of girls. So it won't be the full amount of whatever that stipend is. It'll just be a portion of that amount.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Bingham, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
Yes.
Trustee Smith. Yes. Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes, approval of distribution of payroll. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, move for approval.
Trustee Gomez makes a motion for approval. Trustee Rodriguez seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Ms. Bingham, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
Yes.
Trustee Smith. Yes. Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes, item number 5, approval of donations. Dr. Finley?
I'm asking approval for 2 donations. One of them is to Central High School from the National Society of High School Scholars. It is for our advanced placement, specifically to a teacher's classroom. This amount of $1,000. And the other one is a donation of 6 boxes of dodgeball from a trucking company to Harrison Elementary.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, I make a motion for approval.
Trustee Williams makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Smith seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Just a comment, does anyone know how to pronounce the name of that truck? I mean, they give a donation, I'm sure they want to be recognized, I just don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm gonna mess it up too. I don't.
It looks like DeJurg,
DeJurg,
looks like
DeJurg, Jim DeJurg Trucking Inc.
Are there any questions? Ms. Bingham, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
Yes.
Trustee Smith. Yes. Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes, item 6, approval of family and community engagement coordinator phase, job description, superintendent.
This is a new position that we're asking the board to approve. This individual will report directly to the Director of Federal Projects. And this is about this specific position names this individual as the liaison for the district and the community, who will definitely coordinate everything related to upcoming events, information announcements. So we're seeking your approval for this position this evening.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, make a motion to approve.
Trustee Rodriguez
I second that motion.
makes the motion and trustee Williams seconds the motion. Are there any questions? I just want to make a comment of, I am so glad that we finally have put the person in this position, given her the recognition that she deserves, given her the, everything that she deserves, because you do so much for the school city, and you're never asking, you're never hesitating to help, and thank you so much, because you are a key part of this district. So I'm very happy to be able to approve this tonight. Ms. Bingham, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Gomez.
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
Yes.
Trustee Smith. Yes. Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes, 7, approval of Perkins Assessment Grant 2021-22 grant award notification.
I'm actually going to defer to our Director of Career Technical Education, Mrs. Maren Lee.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm asking for approval of the Perkins 21-22 assessment grant. A little bit of information about this grant. It helps pay for Indiana recognized post-secondary credential tests for our students. The current tests that we offer at Central High School are the Certified Pharmacy Technician through the National Healthcare Association, and then the ProStart National Certification of Achievement and ServSafe through the National Restaurant Association. So the students that would take these are in either our pharmacy tech class or culinary arts classes. These also can count as graduation post-secondary ready competencies to check box 3 for the Indiana graduation pathways.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, I make a motion for approval.
Trustee Williams makes a motion for approval. Trustee Rodriguez seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Ms. Brigham?
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Gomez?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 8, approval of MOU with the Chicago Police Department. Dr.
This is the MOU in partnership or collaboration with our East Chicago Police Department. We do have a number of cameras, as you heard security speak at the last board meeting, that there are a number of cameras that we've now installed throughout the district. This gives them, the police department, access to be able to make sure our buildings are safe and secure, only if we need to notify them of a particular issue. So that's what this MOU is specifically for. It's already been reviewed by our school board attorney.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, I move for approval.
Trustee Gomez makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Williams seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Ms. Brigham, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Gomez?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 9, approval of use of administration building parking lot. Dr. Goodwin.
This is a request to use our parking lot on April the 2nd of 2022 from 1 to 3 in collaboration with the City of East Chicago's Easter egg hunt at Washington Park.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, I make a motion for approval.
Trustee Williams makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Rodriguez seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Gomez.
I was just wondering with the, I'm not sure how this is gonna work, but it would seem to me the drive-through is gonna be 2 blocks away from the school administration building. So what would the purpose of the parking be for?
They're gonna have an Easter egg hunt, so they're gonna spread them out a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
So it's an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, well, I understand that. I just,
Oh, yeah.
it sounds like it's drive-through,
I'm
so.
gonna respond to that.
Okay, gotcha.
What it is that like the Christmas, it's the drive-through. So what they do is they'll come in, they'll stand around the back so that we can avoid traffic on 144th and Euclid. The point is we don't want cars to be on Euclid. Initially, when you have to set up the signups, you'll have that area that's always backed up, and we just don't, the safety of our residents, we don't want them there. So we are able to do that same thing. Last time we participated, we ended up having individuals come in, get something from School City, they come into the back. Are there any other questions? What is the pleasure? I mean, Ms. Brigham?
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Gomez?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Hernandez on.
Abstain. The next item on the agenda is approval of policy vendor, Indiana School Board Association on SBA, Dr. Goodwin.
Well, we're in need of a policy vendor. We did terminate our agreement with Neola, who's our previous vendor. We are now seeking approval from the board to partner with the Indiana School Board Association to be our policy provider for school policies.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, I make a motion for approval.
Trustee Smith makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Trustee Williams seconds the motion. Are there any questions? Ms. Baker, roll call please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item 11, approval of cancellation of MOU Ethereal Lifestyle and Pure Medical Lab.
Ethereal and Pure Medical Lab, when we originally entered into this MOU with the organization, Medicare and Medicaid were acceptable forms of payment to test our students and our staff and their families. Some government regulations must have changed really drastically, probably due to some of the other things that have been happening throughout the nation, but nonetheless, they were only going to be able to service students, staff, and families who had insurance. And as I stated to the staff earlier, we only want to work and collaborate with individuals who can provide equitable services to our students, staff, and family, no matter the funding stream. So we're asking that you terminate the MOU with Ethereal Lifestyle and Pure Medical Lab. However, as you get to item number 12, we will ask you to then approve the MOU with the East Chicago Health Department, who will now service our student, staff, and the overall East Chicago community, school city of East Chicago community.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, I move for approval.
Trustee Gomez makes the motion for approval.
I'll second.
Trustee Rodriguez seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Gomez.
third paragraph, Attorney Harris, is this a bit confused now? It's got February 16th on here and then also March 18th.
Yes, so this is an initial draft. If you were to approve this recommendation, I would update it with all the dates. This is just the date that we drafted and provided it to the superintendent. But you'll see this on actual letterhead, and I'll make sure it's distributed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 12, approval of MOU with the Chicago Health Department. Dr.
Effective tomorrow, if you approve us, the East Chicago Health Department will start to set up and collaborate and coordinate with our medical staff here on how to start the testing process, which will go into effect next Monday and next Tuesday throughout the school city of East Chicago community.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, make a motion to approve.
Trustee Rodriguez makes a motion of approval.
Second.
Trustee Williams seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Gomez.
just moving forward with this, now that it seems like our positivity rate is decreasing, and what do you see the services being here for the coming weeks? And when do we essentially say, okay, thank you for your service?
I'm thinking when the vaccination rate increases within the city is what will make it more comfortable. The vaccination rate in the city of East Chicago was roughly around hovering not even 50%. So I think once the city feels better, then we will then start to transition. But until then, we want to make sure that we have a safe partner who will collect the data and then be able to help to do some of the other matrices that we need within the district.
So these will, they will only be servicing students.
And staff. Yeah, the whole entire school city Chicago community.
Okay.
And they much rather be the ones doing this.
Agreed.
Any other questions? Ms. Baker, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 13, approval of use of gymnasium at Central High School. Dr. Finley.
This is a request to use the gymnasium by Soulmates on May 21st of 2022. This will be in partnership with School City of East Chicago, as there will be some costs incurred that the organization will pay for, which are security and as well as maintenance. And there is a donation that'll come to the School City of East Chicago as a result of this collaboration. We're seeking your approval for May the 21st, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President, make a motion to approve.
Trustee Rodriguez makes a motion of approval.
Second.
Trustee Smith seconds the motion. Are there any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Gomez?
is there going to be, will there be, I know sometimes you have activities there that would include food service or what have you. Is that going to be part of this?
I believe concessions are gonna be available, and that'll be about concessions and then money we make in that area, but no,
But that'll be our concession.
our concession, yes.
Any other questions? Ms. Bingham?
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Abstain?
trustee Smith,
Yes.
chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Item number 14, approval to post signs in honor of Public School Week.
I am going to defer to our AFT 511 Union President, Mrs. Helen Steinbeck.
This my message?
All right, can you hear me? All right, now it's working. Okay, so this week is Public Schools Week, if you didn't already know that. And the Indiana Coalition of Public Education had a kickoff yesterday in Indianapolis, which I attended. And one of the things that they were offering are yard signs. And so I thought it would be a great idea if we could display the yard signs at all of our school buildings and here at the administration center. And the picture that's on the sign says "Public Schools Unite Us." And I think it's a really good message. Now, when I went down there yesterday, the signs were not available to purchase. And so I didn't come back with all the signs for the school, but I can order them. They just won't be displayed during this week of public schools because it'll take me a little bit to get them. So I'm asking if we could display those maybe until spring break or something like that once we get them.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Question. Madam President, move for approval.
Trustee Gomez makes a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Trustee Rodriguez seconds the motion. Your question, trustee Rodriguez.
Ms. Steinbeck, with regards, is this a sign? Was it United?
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple of questions. I know this is a non-political
Yes.
display. And have you checked with just the election laws, just to make sure, like say, for example, is there a PAC established for this? Is this something through your union or how's the
So the funds that I'm going to use to pay for the signs are from my COPE fund that I have separate from Union Dues Collective. It's a voluntary contribution. And then the Indiana Coalition for Public Education is a nonpartisan, no politics involved with that. Because there's members that are from both sides of the aisle.
Any other questions? Ms. Bingham, roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
chairman Hernandez on.
Yes. Next, we move to superintendent's remarks.
Want to say thank you to parents. I know this weather has just been fun, but not fun. Thank you again to parents, students, and staff for your patience during last week's storm right before break. So please know again that I'm committed to this. Student, staff safety are our priorities. And this decision to transition to e-learning or cancel school is never easy. So thank you again for your patience and understanding. We're also in a real big stride right now for spring assessments. They have definitely begun. Students and with the support of the parents and guardians could potentially see an increase in math and reading scores this year. So just here are a few tips and reminders. Please make sure that your child gets an ample, normal amount of sleep the night before they take any assessment or test. Mark testing days on your calendar to help remind you and your child when the testing will take place and make preparations. Work with teachers and administrators at your child's school to find materials to work on at home in preparation for assessments. And make sure that your student arrives to school early on the day of testing. And you know that COVID still exists, so if your child is sick, please contact the school immediately to inform COVID update, this is a big deal. This one just happened this evening. Our district nurse met with Mrs. Diana Burns from the East Chicago Health Department this afternoon, and we are in yellow. That we should clap for that. That's a big deal. According to our own internal data last week, we had 0 positive cases and 2 of COVID for students and staff, and 2 exposures at East Chicago Central High School. The East Chicago Health Department is recommending that we go to a 5-day quarantine now and no contact tracing. These recommendations are in line with the CDC as well as the Indiana State Department of Health and Indiana Department of Education. Also, the state will be deploying home COVID test kits for all students in Indiana. They will be sent to the school district to give to students. More information will be forthcoming. The Chicago Health Department is also recommending that we continue our mask mandate at least through spring break, and we want to continue our trajectory of decreasing cases. We have an e-learning day coming upon us on March the 9th. It's an e-learning day for students only. All staff, including transportation, will participate in district-wide training. Tutoring will start tomorrow for East Chicago Central High School. And last but least, we have Read Across America Day, which is on March the 2nd of 2022. So that's next week, Wednesday. We are seeking people to read a story to students in grades pre-K to second. Please reach out to the district office if you are interested in partnering with our schools. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, you are trustee remarks. Are there any? Oh, you did have a good news. You did have a good news.
Yes, I was going to defer to our awesome Mrs. Smith, legislative.
Oh, okay. So I will let her take over. I just like to tell, inform you all that Joelle, trustee Rodriguez, and myself went to the Indiana State House Day. It was organized by the Indiana School Board Association. The family was there. There were board members through all over Indiana, and I invited trustee Rodriguez because he's on the national level and we're on the local state level. So we go there, and if you don't know what the IBS and Indiana School Board Association is, they lobby for legislation not to pass. It's been a really tough year for Indiana School Board Association because of the different legislation. Thanks to Trustee Gomez, we wrote a resolution against this House Bill 1134. If you don't know what House Bill 1134 is, it's saying that it's trying to change the course of the diversity in our nation, or in our schools. And they want teachers to be able to have a work plan, 4 days, 5 days, online. It's just a lot of stuff that's in this one particular House Bill 1134. But let me just give you a little information. Despite the 2022 session of the Indiana General Assembly being a short session, a number of controversial bills have been discussed amongst the Indiana House of Representatives and state senators. Indiana State President Pro Tem Roderick Bray and Representative Peggy Mayfield discussed a number of topics on Friday's third. This is the third time that this particular bill has been discussed. This third bill will still be in discussion, and it has not reached the Senate as of yet because they're still critiquing it and taking away. During Friday's discussion, one topic brought up about House Bill 1134, a controversial piece of legislation which will promote certain concepts as part of course of instruction or in a curriculum, or direct or indirect compel a school employee or students to adhere to certain tenets relating to individual sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, national origin, or political affiliation. This bill was approved out of the Indiana House of Representatives on January 26th and is now being debated in the state Senate. Some educators have expressed concern the bill will create teacher shortage if it becomes a law. Gray noted House Bill 1134 has been a really controversial issue and deals with teaching of diverse issues. It talks about things like that you can't promote the idea that one race is inferior or superior to another. The state senator said he had the opportunity to talk to educators throughout the state in the recent weeks, and the Senate has made very significant modifications to this bill. And the only thing that they took out was to remove the teachers putting their curriculum online. That's it. So we don't know how far this particular bill is going to go. We know that session ends March the 15th, but March the 15th is on a Monday. So session will probably really end that Thursday prior to that Monday. So if you can, and if you would, if you please have the time, please email your senator or your representative. It's still in session with the Senate. When we attended the State House, we were all geared to not protest, but to speak at the Senate. Well, they had a bunch of children from different schools that were passing out literature against this particular House bill. And the Indiana State Board of Education and all of the board members from all over Northwest Indiana, or Indiana period, was there. So quite naturally, you know what they did. They took it off the agenda that day because they knew that we were there to fight that particular bill. And then we had children, and I was really proud of these children because they said, every time I think about those kids protesting, you have to have been there to see how dedicated that this bill would not only just take away, but it would divide. It would divide the races and all of the things that from the years we have worked toward, it will take away, and it will not add to it. It would just make things much, much harder. I get very emotional when I talk about this because I was one of the students in I'm not gonna tell you the year, but I was part of the segregation. And that wasn't a very good feeling to be bused. And we don't want that to happen in our country ever again. And as the letter stated, we're moving from the children, we're moving backwards as opposed to forward. So we really need you all to email your representative and email your senator. And that's all I have to say about this, because I get very, very emotional. Now, Trustee Rodriguez might have to say something.
Actually, I was Mrs. Smith's backup and bouncer. No, just kidding. No, the whole event was really nice. I mean, ISBA advocacy group has really done well to making sure that the legislation really focuses on students as well as teachers. So they've done a really good job. But yet you do have a couple of these bills that do pop up out of nowhere. And I think what Ms. Smith was alluding to was the House Bill 1134. And like I said, these students were ready. I just want to go to the students in the State House because that's what really caught my eye. When they came out and they were passing out literature. They were really wanting to speak. Of course, I think I read in one of the newspapers, they said that if all the students would have spoke, it would have took 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. before everything is completed. So with all the speaking, so I think that's I was sad to see that they didn't get an opportunity to do so. But what I heard is that the next day the students were there again. So it's always important to involve your students. especially when it comes to situations like this, because, I mean, they're our future. I mean, we don't ask the questions. Matter of fact, from one of the national levels, one of the students told me, says, well, you tend to ask the parents about what we need to do to better our schools, but yet the parents are never here in these meetings or things like that. Why not ask us, the students? Because we're here every day with the teachers. So just little things like that hopefully we can improve our relationships even better with our students, as well as getting them involved in a lot of our policies, as well as our future academics. Thanks.
Are there any trustee remarks? Any other trustee remarks? I'm sorry. I just did want to make mention to an event that we had here, or not here, but at Central High School on February 19th. And it was an I2SAA semi-state for wrestling. And we had about 1,800 guests. I think we were supposed to go over, so I'm gonna say we only had 1,800 guests. But it was amazing to see the gym filled at the Central High School. Upstairs, concession stand was open, downstairs concession stand was open. And it's only, it comes from the Porras Maldonado family, who are all East Chicago individuals. Mr. Porras is an East Chicago teacher. Many administrators were there, many coaches were there, and there was teachers volunteering. There were just people who we just know volunteering. It was a whole day event. It started at about 8 a.m. and ended up around 5 or 6. And it was good to be able to have individuals from all over the state see what we can do here. And the event was done, planned, executed by our interim superintendent, our interim athletic director, Cindy Wilson. And being in the athletic department, we understand what it takes on the back end to get this done. Purchasing of items, making sure that money is in place, having everyone to work, all the workers, everyone taking the scorecards, and most importantly, the bylaws are that you have to put in ahead of time, and actually even advocating to get these tournaments. It's extremely hard to get done. And you know, I'm glad that everyone came out to support. We even had our former athletic director come up from Indianapolis to support her. So it was definitely a great day to be in the gym, to be a Cardinal. So thank you to Cindy Wilson, as well as all those volunteers that came. The next, we're now into public forum. We have no one for public forum. The next date, and oh, I'm sorry.
I signed up.
Nobody brought the sheet.
Sorry.
What?
All right. Okay. Helen Steinbach, 5207 East 73rd, Lincoln. All right, Helen Steinbach, 5207 East 73rd Avenue in Maryville, Indiana. I'm here tonight to also talk about Senate Bill 1134, and they're going to have it on the committee tomorrow afternoon. And so I'm asking you if there's any testimony that you would like to send to email Senator Melton, Senator Cadora, Senator J.D. Ford, or Senator Yoder to let them know how this bill might affect our schools. I also have postcards from the rally yesterday. And so if anybody would like postcards, please let me know, and I'll be happy to share them with you. And that's all.
Thank you. The next date and time for our meeting is 6 p.m. here at the Administration Building on March 7th, 2022. And I please have a roll call for adjournment. I'm sorry, a motion. Trustee Rodriguez makes a motion. Can I have a second motion?
Second.
Trustee Smith seconds the motion. Ms. Big on roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Gomez,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Hernandez on.